Cool. Well, let's move on. Um, so the off season is upon us. Um, a lot of free agents this off season on our team. Obviously, the draft. We should be getting some compensatory picks, and we don't know yet what Jimmy is going to be traded for. But without knowing exactly what our assets are going to be, Chewy, what is or what should be the 49ers' main focus this offseason?
So this is a perfect segue after we're talking about Trey Lance to go into this topic because the biggest thing that we need to focus on, the biggest area that we need to focus on, the 49ers need to, is protecting Trey Lance. He's the most important asset in the 49ers organization right now. I know Debo Samuel is probably the best player in the 49ers organization right now, but make no, mistake about it. Trey Lance is the most important asset in the 49ers organization right now. So they really need to do everything possible to shore up their offensive line this offseason, rebuild it. I think Trent Williams may be the only player that will return unless Alex Mack gives it, a go for one more season. I think from a starting standpoint, those two may be the only two returning starters on the offensive line.
You
So
think
I think
McGlinchey's gone?
yeah, I don't think he's going to be ready at the beginning of the season. I think he may come back in midseason. I don't think he's going to be ready at the start of the season. We'll see. But I just think McGlinchey has never been a solid pass, blocker. So I don't know that they really want to put Trey Lance's fate into Mike McGlinchey's hands. So to me, that's the most important thing that the 49ers need to focus on is shoring up that offensive line. So that way Trey Lance isn't running for his life next season. He can actually learn how to go through progressions. He can learn how to read defenses, and he can do it comfortably instead of being under constant duress the way Jimmy Garoppolo was this season, really, because it always seemed like Jimmy Garoppolo would drop back and he was in constant duress. He was getting hit as he threw. It's just luckily he had such a fast release that he was able to get the balls off. But I think ultimately that's probably the most important thing we need to focus on.
And, I agree with you. I think that the offensive line is an area that definitely needs to be upgraded, especially in the interior with the right guard, I think is the biggest thing that needs to be upgraded. It's interesting because I thought that Laken Tomlinson was a no-brainer to bring back and re-sign, but it's looking more and more like they're going to let him test free agency. And I think that, he's going to get just too much money on the free agent market where the 49ers aren't going to be able to compete, which I think to this day is going to be a dumb move because of just how well Laken Tomlinson has played for the 49ers. And he's the only offensive lineman that always stays healthy. So how do you think they solve that? And the reason why I asked this question, Chewy, let me preface it by this. 49ers best offensive lineman this season, Trent Williams, obviously, Laken Tomlinson, Alex Mack. None of those guys were drafted by the team. In fact, out of all of the starters, with this offensive line, only McGlinchey is somebody that the team actually drafted and developed themselves. They picked Aaron Banks the second round. You already mentioned earlier in the show. He didn't see much playing time, if any playing time. Jalen Moore, what played in spot duty, was up and down. Tom Compton, a guy that was drafted, previously played, was up and down. This team hasn't had a good track record drafting offensive linemen, meaning picking the right guys. And in previous drafts as well, Chewy, they've identified the wrong guy. So instead of getting Aaron Banks, they could have gotten Creed Humphreys, who had an all-pro type season this year. They passed on that. They took Javon Kinlaw a couple years ago when Trenton Wirfs was there as an offensive lineman that they could have got. They passed on that. So how confident are you that the 49ers can solve this problem through the draft? Do they have any other options, or do they just have to, swing for the fences again and try to maybe trade for a guy?
Well, based on what you said, Sunil, I'm not confident at all that they can solve it in the draft. I mean, we obviously know their history when it comes to drafting offensive linemen. It's not good. There's no way around it. But I think, it's not a lost cause, but because they've also been able to get players like you mentioned, like Laken Tomlinson. They were able to get him. I think they've traded a fourth or fifth round pick for Laken Tomlinson, and he was a first round pick, you know, a former first round pick. So
Mhm.
I think ultimately that's what the path going forward is. The smartest path for the 49ers is to find a highly talented player that just didn't work out with an organization and then go poach him. They've seemed to have shown that they can have success with that. I mean, Trent Williams is obviously just an all world talent. He was going to be good no matter where he went. But Laken Tomlinson, Weston Richburg, when we kicked off the Shanahan era, they got him over from the Giants. They brought him over. He fit the scheme. So they don't necessarily have to get the most talented player. They just need to get somebody that's a good scheme fit for the Shanahan offense. And those guys tend to be smaller, more agile. They're not usually the top tier, highest paid offensive linemen. So I think there's some hope on us being able to find that type of player for a good deal, because I just don't have any confidence in their drafting ability for offensive linemen. I mean, maybe Aaron Banks lost some weight and he's going to fit the system a little bit better this season, but am I going to bank on him, especially since he was inactive most of the season? No. So, I mean, they have to do something, but I think the more realistic path is for us to find a cast off from another team.